Hello everyone, today we're working on 2021 Ram Cummins, and we're going to be putting a bypass filter system on for the engine oil. The kit we'll be using today is a BMK34. Leave the tags upside down here, but that's the one we're using. It's for the Cummins, the 6.7 Cummins. And the kit comes with about 12 foot of hose, comes with an EABP 90 filter. It's got the filter head, and to get a shot of the middle, there is the restricted orifice right in the middle of that brass, designed to flow about a gallon a minute. And it comes with a return. This is for the return oil going back to the valve cover. It's an anodized aluminum. It's got a swivel in it. And then we've got a bag of parts. And that bag of parts has most of the fittings you'll need for putting that system on. And also we have the instructions right here that come with it. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside for now. Now we're going to be mounting this bypass system right down kind of behind this bumper, right underneath that front cross member mount. So it's going to be in that general area, and what I've got is some brackets that I've fabricated. And I made some standoffs. We're going to be using the mount for that vibration isolator for that cross member. We're going to be taking the nuts off, and these standoffs are going to take the place of that nut, and then we're going to bolt up our bracket to the bottom of these standoffs. So we'll show you the procedure for that, but I've got, those are things that I make, and then there's also a tree for supplying oil to the filter, and that goes off the top of the filter that's existing there, the full flow filter. And then I've also got an oil sample valve, so you can take samples right off that point as well. So these are all parts of a kit that I put together. If you're interested in those, you can get a hold of me on that. The oil we'll be using in there is the Amsoil Signature Series 10W30. And this is an excellent oil. Most of these 6X oils we're running at 18 to 20,000 mile range on the Dodge Cummins, the Duramax, and the Power Strokes, using oil analysis and the bypass system. So we'll be sampling this oil when we go to change it. This is going to add, I'm going to say probably anywhere from 1 to 2 quarts to the system. These filters, there's 3 different lengths of these filters. There's an EABP 90, which is about 6 inches long. There's an EABP 100, which is about 7.5 inches long. And there's an EABP 110, and that one's about 10.5 inches long. So if you've got the room for a longer filter, it'll give you a little more capacity and a little more filter area. Difference in price is about $5 more as you step up each size. So the other thing I'm a dealer for is the gold plugs, and I've got the gold plug out of the front differential in this truck, and they come with a gray magnet from the factory, and that gray magnet is quite weak, and once it gets fuzzed over with metal, it loses its ability to keep pulling that metal out of the oil. So I've got a little bolt here, a little 1-inch bolt, and we can just about move it. But as far as holding itself on the bolt, if it's sitting right on top, it'll stay there, but you set it off to the side. It don't have a lot of strength. This is a direct replacement and gold plug for it, and a little bit of difference in strength there. You can set that on that bolt anywhere you want. It ain't going to move. So a lot of difference in strength. There's one, these are for the front and rear differentials. There's also one for the transfer case, and I have one here for the engine as well. This is one for the engine, and I won't even bother taking that one out of the package. There we go. So if you're interested in any of those, you can contact me, and we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to show you where this system goes on the truck and how to plumb it, and we'll get started with you. Okay, right here is the right front passenger side, and we're coming up here. You can see right here is your inner fender well, and right up here is that cross member mount right there, and there's 2 bolts right here that are coming down from the top that hold that vibration isolator to that mount, and that mount is attached to the frame right over here. Okay, so we're going to take these 2 nuts off. They got real long threads on them there. We're going to take those 2 nuts off, and then we're going to put those standoffs on there, and we're going to torque those down to about 40 to 50 foot-pounds, right in that range. We're going to put a little Loctite on them as well, thread locker. But that's basically where we're going to mount at, and then see if I can get up here. There's a little triangular, you can kind of see that triangular. See if I can get my hand up there on the side. It's kind of a tight fit. Let's see what I can do here. Right up here is kind of a triangular cutout in that bracket, and that's where the hoses are going to be coming through from the filter head, and we'll feed those on up into the engine compartment. So we'll get those nuts off, we'll get started with you. Okay, this is a 16mm head on those bolts. Go. And I'm going to grab those standoffs. I'm going to put some Loctite thread locker on the threads. Okay, then we'll put them up there. And those are basically going to take the place of the nut. And that'll extend us down far enough where we get below the head of that bolt there in that isolator. And that hex is a 3/4 inch socket. It'll fit on there. And we're going to take it to about right around 45-50 foot-pounds. Okay, so that's going to be the main part of our mount, and next thing we're going to do is get the bracket that bolts onto the bottom here and the bolts, and we'll get ready to put that on. Now we're going to put these fittings on top here, and these are all 1/8 inch tapered pipe thread. So when you put them together, you're going to want to use some type of pipe dope on them, preferably something with a little Teflon. The Teflon helps it to screw in better and smoother so that you can get a tighter seal on the taper. So we're going to put these in, get them tightened up, and we're going to have them pointing sort of out on an angle about like this when we're all done, both of them. And you get this other one in there. Okay, so now we're going to go to the GIC fitting, and this end is tapered pipe thread. This end does not need pipe dope on it because it doesn't seal on the threads. It seals on the taper up here. Okay, it's interference fit with the fitting, and that's where it seals at, is right on that taper. So don't put any on that end, but put it on the threaded pipe end. And that's true of all 4 of these fittings that you're going to be using. So what we're going to do is we'll have and again, you're going to have to tighten these first before you put these in. I'm just kind of showing you how everything goes together. There we go. So it's going to be pointing on a direction, I'm going to say about like that right there. They're going to be close together. So if you have them real close there, and then what we're going to do is put the bracket up and get that kind of in place, and we're going to fasten this to the bracket first, because otherwise you see it's kind of hard to get at all this stuff. You don't have a lot of clearance for the wrenches. Okay, and then we can put these last 2 bolts in, these mount bolts last when we're all done. So that'll get us kind of in the neighborhood of where we need to be, and then we can tweak these just a little bit, you know, according to where that triangular piece is at on that mount that I showed you. So we're going to go ahead and follow through with that and be back with you. Okay, this cap, the return cap, we're going to use a 90 on that and shoot it off to the side. And again, put the pipe dope on. And there's a swivel. It's got an O-ring in there, so you can kind of see it start to swivel in there, so that when you go to take the cap off, you can move it back and forth without having to take the hose off. And to tighten that up, you want a 9/16 wrench. And on these tapered pipes, I don't really have a torque setting on them. It's just a matter of getting them good and tight. You don't want to go too crazy on the brass fittings because you can twist them off. But just good and snug. And the pipe dope helps quite a bit with sealing them up too. Okay, there we go. So that's all ready to go. Alright, next thing is we'll go put the hose in and route that. Okay, we got the hose end right here. It's a two-part end, and you got your sleeve on the outside here. It goes on first, and you got the insert. And the sleeve inside here has reverse threads, and when you go to put your hose on, this one's a little frayed, or if it's not cut on a nice straight 90-degree cut, I've got a tool here that I use. It's a Blue Point, and it does a really nice job of cutting that hose. Gets you a nice square cut on it, and we'll start putting this on. I'll start it by hand. They start pretty good by hand, then I'll use a crescent wrench. And when I put this on, I'm going to take it on all the way until it bottoms out. Right there it's bottomed out, and I'm going to back it off probably about a half a turn. Now I'm going to put a little bit of oil in it. Excuse me, a little bit of oil in it. And then we'll put that insert in. Then when I'm done, I'll wipe off any excess oil that came squeezing out, because it can kind of fool you and think you've got a leak, but it's just squeezing out from that initial oil. So that's how that goes on. Yeah, and what I'll do is take the full length of hose, and I'll put the end on each end when I go to start putting the hose in, so that then I can cut my hose kind of in the middle or wherever I need to when I got it stretched up to where it needs to go. Okay, I've got the hose. This is a full 12 foot, and I put two ends on. And I'm going to route this down. We're kind of in the engine compartment here. We're going to go down towards that the inner fender well. We're going to get them down there so I can grab them from beneath and get them routed where I want them to go. This is a general area that we're going to use to route the hoses. And this is going to be the supply right here. At the end of my finger there's a plug, 1/8 inch pipe plug, and that's going to supply the oil. And then the return oil will come in up here. We got that blue anodized aluminum cap, and that's where we're going to be returning the oil to. So we're going to route these hoses down, and then I'm going to start putting that filter head on next. Okay, I'm underneath the truck, and I've stuck those hoses down from the top, kind of showing you where I've got them routed as best I can. It's a tight fit up here, but I'm right next to that inner fender well, and then I'm coming down. You can kind of see where my hand is at up there, and I'm bringing the hose ends. I'm going to move this inner fender well. And you can see where those hose ends go, kind of that triangular cutout there in that mount. And I'm going to probably be using some zip ties up there on these, probably to the air conditioner lines or some other lines up there, just to get them all stabilized. But that'll get you down, get the hoses down here where they need to be, so that we can go ahead and put that filter head and the main mount in. Okay. This center one is the cleaned oil going back to the engine. The one on the outside is the one coming from the filter. That's the dirty oil coming in. So keep track of those when you go to hook up. Remember, the center one is the cleaned oil going back to the valve cover. Okay, we're going to put the bolts in. And the angle that I have on this right here, you can kind of see, that's about exactly where I need it to go through that triangular cutout. So that gives you some idea about where you need to be. And we're going to mount this to this bracket first. Okay, so now we're ready to put that bracket up. I'm gonna get this wrench off first. But we're gonna go down below and we're gonna bolt this, we're gonna put the hoses on first as they come through that triangular cutout, and then we'll put the bracket up and bolt up the bracket last. So we'll do that next. Okay, we got these lines through that triangular piece up here, that triangular hole in that mount. I'm gonna pull them down and get them in a place where we can put the lines on and get them all snug down, get them tight. Let me get my wrenches here. You'll need a 1/2 inch and a 9/16. You want to get these good and snug too, because they seal on that taper. Or I should say on the interference fit on that GIC fitting. Okay, there's one. This other one here. See if I can keep my light in place. Back up there. There we go. Okay. Alright. There, that's good for that. Okay. And there goes my light again. Doesn't want to stay put. Okay. Now we'll push those lines back up in there. And now we can kind of see where we're at there. And we're going to line up our bolt holes. And I'll find my bolts here. There we go. When you go to put these bolts on, you can also put Loctite on the threads of those too for thread locker. And then the same type of torque. We're going to want about 40 to 50 foot-pounds of torque on these bolts to hold them in place. And you should be able to sneak by that filter head with the extension. Loosen this up here, over here a little bit. Whoop, fell out. Okay. Come on. There we go. Close. It's a hard one to see. Hard one to see with your hand in there. There it goes. I think it started. Yep. There it goes. Okay. So we're gonna I'll put some Loctite on those, and we'll get those torqued down. And then if you need to tweak these lines a little bit, you can. But they look pretty good right there. Once you get everything up and tight, it should sneak right on through there, and looks good right there. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and torque that, and we'll be back with you. Okay, right here on this inner fender well, right here's our lines. I want to use this inner fender well, and I want to put a zip tie right around these two lines and zip tie it right here. So I'm going to drill one small hole there. It's about a 5/16 hole, and pull those lines out. We want it about right up here in this corner. Right there. Okay. Now I can take this on through and get both those lines. And then we'll trim off the tail there. But that'll keep those lines nice right there. And then the next one we'll do will be right up here. And I gotta figure this routing out here on this yet, if I want to do it right here yet. But that's how we're gonna do this right here, is drill a 5/16 hole right there, kind of in that corner. And that'll stabilize those lines right there to that inner fender well. Okay, we got a couple lines right here, and I'm gonna put another zip tie on right there, behind that fender well. I'll take both those lines right there and get them up snug. There we go. Okay. And then I might put another set on right there. That's probably about it for down here. I'll probably put another one on maybe right there. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna get the lines cut. I might come back and put one on there. We'll see how it goes. But there's one here and one right there securing it. I believe that's an air conditioner line. I'm not for certain. Might be one of the cooler lines for the tranny too, but that'll hold it stable and keep everything where it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to take my hose here. I'm basically just going to cut it right in the middle. Now I've got the filter off down below, so it's a matter of having someone down below, and you can blow air through it and figure out which line is which. Just push some compressed air through, and you should have somebody down there who can feel it, whether it's coming out of that center port or whether it's going to come out of the other port. And I can tell you already, the one that's got more airflow is the outer port. So this is the dirty oil right here. Because when you go to put it in where that orifice is at, it's really very little flow. So this is the cleaned oil. This is the one going back to the top of the engine. So that's just a quick tip on how to figure out which hose is which. Okay, we're at the top of the full flow filter. We're going to take that 1/8 inch pipe plug out, and that's going to be our supply oil. There we go. Okay, we're taking off that fill cap, and we're going to put a little oil in that O-ring. We'll put on that anodized aluminum one. That'll screw right in there. There we go. Okay, takes care of that. Now, next thing we're going to do is down here on the filter. We are going to put this T on first with the nipple. And see if I can get my hand in there. Okay. And we're going to tighten that up. One of these offset wrenches might come in handy at this point. Or if you've got a crow's foot wrench, a 9/16 crow's foot might help too. In fact, I think I'm going to get one of those. Okay, crow's foot wrench will help you out quite a bit in putting this fitting on. Just makes it a little more maneuverable than the wrench is. Okay, I've got the hose end on here. We got this about where it needs to go. It's pointing a little bit towards that air intake, but this hose right here is the one we need. I'm going to double check it with compressed air. Yep, that's the dirty oil. Okay, I'm going to mark it, and I want it marked about right here. Right here is where about the end of the hose is at. Right there, I'm putting that little blue mark in that sleeve. Okay, and I don't know if we can see down in here. I've got a little bit of a loop back there, kind of down in where that hose goes, and I'm going to put it over here and mark it and get that cut. Okay. What I'll probably do is pull this out into the wheel well, because I think I can assemble the hose a lot better out in the wheel well than I can right in here. So I'm going to pull this down where that mark is out in the wheel well, and I'll cut it, and then we'll assemble it kind of in that wheel well. Okay, I got this pulled out in the wheel well. Right there's my mark. Okay. Got a lot more arm room here, so we're going to go ahead and assemble this right here, and then this will go back up to the filter head, and then we'll do the other one. We'll be back with you. Okay, I've got that hose end on, and I got that hose put in place, and it's going to come underneath that cooler line, and I can try and shine a little light down there, and you got a little bit of clearance there between the air filter snorkel and that line, so that's kind of nestled in there pretty nice. You can kind of see how I got that routed in there, kind of towards the back there a little bit too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is this is the return line coming from the filter. This is the filtered oil, and I'm gonna end up zip tying that probably right here with these lines, and then it'll come on over to right over here to this. So we're going to mark this and cut it, and get that all put together and show you the finished product. Okay, we got this hose up here. When you go to tighten that, make sure you put something on here to back it up. You don't want to be cranking on that too hard. Put a backup wrench on here. It's a 9/16. Put a crescent or something on there to tighten it. And then we're going to fasten this. Right here is an attachment point on that shroud. And I've got it's a good heavy zip tie. We're going to go through there, and we're going to combine all three of those into one. So these zip ties, they'll be part of my kit as well. Any fittings you'll need will be in my kit, my installation kit with my brackets. So get that nice and snug and right there, and then you can go ahead and when you need to add oil, it'll screw right out, just like that. Alright, so I'll do a once over on this from below. I'll put the filter on, show you what everything looks like, and I think we're pretty much done. Okay, now I've got this sample valve right here. There's a little cap, and it's a 1/2-inch wrench size cap, and that doesn't have to be really tight on there, but it's there just to keep the dirt and stuff out of the valve. So when you go to take your sample, you know, have your truck running up to temp, and you should be able to get your hand in. You know, I'm doing it kind of backward here. I'd have it with my left hand holding the bottle, but I'm just doing this so we can see it good, and then you can go in and turn the valve with your right hand and take your sample. So you can rotate that valve back to the rear more if you want, or to the front a little bit if you want, but you're probably going to want to have gloves on because some of this stuff over here is going to be hot, like these coolant lines here. So, but that kind of shows you where you can get your sample at. Okay, here's another thing to think about for your vehicle. Amsoil's got this MPHD, heavy duty metal protector, and this is it's a rattle can, and the stuff comes out as a liquid. It's almost watery when it comes out, and solvents evaporate, and when solvents evaporate, it leaves behind a real dry, waxy film that cuts out oxygen, and you would need a solvent or some hot water to get that off, but you can kind of see what it sets up like. So we're going to put some of that on the battery terminals because that's a very good place for them. And what that does, it cuts out the corrosion. I'll give them a shot of it. If there's any excess that you don't want there, you can wipe it down with the rag. But any of these terminals here that can corrode, I'm going to hit them with that. and I'll do 2 or 3 coats. Works better in the summertime because the solvents evaporate quicker, but just soak them up good with that and do both batteries. And come back after maybe a half an hour to an hour, depending on how hot it is, and put another coat on, and that'll put a nice coat just like what you see here. This stuff here kind of ran out of the can, but it'll put a nice coat on there and it cuts out the oxygen. No oxygen, then you cut out the corrosion. So just an excellent product that I found over the years to use on the battery terminals. Okay, here's the final view of the install. We're all done, and I just wanted to show you the hose routing and what everything looks like down here where we hooked in. And I'm going to go down below and take a look at that as well. Okay, here's a view from the underside, and show you where everything's at and what it all looks like the best I can here. Right there's that inner fender well. I'm going to fold that back so you can see everything. Right up there is our lines where they go into the filter head. There's the bracket all bolted up. Try and shoot as much of this as I can so you can see what it all looks like. But I believe that's it for this video. I want to thank you for watching my video. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching my video. Be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/c/Donsoil. I'd like to introduce you to Amsoil Synthetic Lubricants. We have the most complete line of synthetic lubricants on the market that offer you greatly reduced wear, extended drain intervals, longer equipment life. You can check that out at my website, donsoil.com. I also have a website for looking up fluid capacities. It's fluidcapacity.com. You can go there and print off the capacity of your engine oil, cooling system, transmission, transfer case, differentials. Be sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Don Synthetic Lubes. Thank you and have a great day.